Hi there, good noon and welcome to BYJU'S exam prep channel that is dedicated to the success of your preparation for the B School exams. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you start getting the notifications. My name is Vikrant and I am your personal coach for all things English and communication. So if you need any help, any input before I start this session, go ahead and tell me. We can address that first up and then take it up from there. So a lot of greetings today. A very good afternoon, everyone. Personal coach for all things English and communication. So any questions, any concerns, any area, any question type that is bothering you more, any specific session or information that you want me to bring for you, go ahead and let's have a look at that in that case. What say you? Okay, otherwise, you know what we do in these sessions. After all, this is the 39th iteration, 39th part of this mega series that I started a while ago, where we look at 500 most important CAT questions. Even if you're starting now, you can just revisit all the previous sessions, watch them, and I'm sure it will give you adequate amount of practice and the right kind of mindset. So are we ready? Shall we start? Any questions? Hope we have a good number of questions. And dismantle VARC. Yes, I mean, when you say a good number of questions, then in a way, yes, because in this series we are essentially looking at 500 questions, right? But this is not the only series that we run. There are other sessions that keep on happening where we dive into some topic specific areas. Then there are these sessions that happen on the app where I once again pick up certain areas. In fact, I took a session on para completions last evening where I sat down and created 6 new questions meant exclusively for that session. So yes, I'm sure if you follow me on the app and here on YouTube, you definitely find adequate amounts of practice for yourself, right? Anything else? Long time no see. By Victor/Vaishnav. Why? I was not here for a few. I am generally here 2 to 3 times a week, if not more. So that can hardly be called long time, but glad to know that you missed me. So let's go ahead and dive into a practice. But before that, the All India Open Mock window has opened today. So please make sure that you write it at the earliest. You can, for that matter, even attempt this test on the app. Just go to the app and you'd find this button that says attempt now in the CAT category, of course, and that will help you. That will allow you to benchmark yourself against the best of the best in the entire country. Okay. Arindam says, is there a chance? Absolutely. I mean, Arindam, we basically target what? We say 80% accuracy is what we target. So is there a possibility of getting a question wrong, especially as low as 1 or 2%? Yes, absolutely. I'd in fact put it at around 10%. So can you get it wrong? Yes, you can get it wrong, but thankfully when it comes to para jumbles, we don't bother because they are the theta or the non-MCQ variety, which means that you don't have any negative marking and therefore it is absolutely all right to take a chance there. Right? Shall so let's dive into our practice. As usual, I'd ask you to take a deep breath and focus on the passage which is about to come. So there you go. Even otherwise, it's always a good idea to take a deep breath. That sort of de-stresses us so very well, right? Ready? So here is a passage which will be based on an area which is quite popular among the examination setter, the paper setter, so to say, Anthropology, and here it is on your screen. I will take you through this passage paragraph by paragraph. The moment you're done reading a paragraph, let me know so that I can switch you over to the next one. There you go. Siddharth, it's okay. We think that our brain gets tired, but brain by now, I'm sure you have stamina to last for 3 hours, so this is nothing. That will in fact give you a head start. You must feel primed up for this by now. Oh, Ranit, as usual, is the first one off the blocks. Okay, here is the next paragraph. Sorry, this should have been a comma here, my bad. Collapse, sapiens, and this. There should have been these 2 commas here. I'll just fix it. That will otherwise end up changing the meaning entirely here. So this should fix it. Right, here is the next one. Okay, next. Nidhi, run it. That's good. Good going. Good speed. And here is the last paragraph. Okay, Vedant, after this paragraph. No, run it. That isn't right. Okay, so Vedant asked a question. What is the meaning of teleological? So let us see. So look at it. No, there are we are obviously as human beings trying to make sense of the world around us, right? So when we try to understand something, we often ask questions like, "What is it for?" Right? That's a very commonly used question. So the answer of what is it for generally tells us the purpose or the end goal of that thing. So this particular way of looking at things where you are trying to look at the end goal or purpose, that is called teleology. So it actually comes from two Greek words. We have telo, which means end, purpose or goal, and logos, which means explanation, reason, knowledge. So let's look at an example. Let's say that we pick up a pen. So we can obviously ask what sort of form a pen has, what sort of features a pen has. So you can look at it by focusing on the manufacturing process of the pen. You can refer to the past, the process of its making, and then describe it. Now, this kind of approach of looking at a pen will be called etiological explanation or approach. But a teleological explanation will be something like that refers to the end or the purpose or the goal. So the purpose of the pen is to help us write. So what makes a good pen? A pen that helps you write well. That's the guiding principle, right? So this sort of approach works really very well for things, but then this sort of approach has certain issues. A lot of scientists use it in evolutionary biology and biology, etc., where this can lead to problems. So there are some aspects where teleological approach is good and it helps you move forward. There are aspects where it does not. Right? So that's basically what teleological approach would generally talk about. So in fact, this is a passage which had a lot of keywords actually. So let's just have a look at all those keywords. That familiarity is what would typically help us understand things well. Okay, so for instance, so these in themselves are in a way keywords, but by now you know these. However, moving over, you notice this. But thankfully both of these have been described. However, you also have something like this. Then of course you had teleological approach. Then a lot of these other terms. An artist. Right? So quite a fair bit of technical terms that the passage was peppered with. So let's go ahead and have a look at the first question. Here it is on your screen. None of the following statements can be inferred from the passage except. So go ahead, share your answer, and then we'll see. Oh, Virender, were you asking me for the meanings of these words? I kind of did not really look at the messages then. And then Ranit has also shared the meanings. Egalitarian may require further explanation, but I think the other two are definitely working words. But Ranit, you got teleological wrong today, huh? The rest of it is still fine. So that's fabulous. मान लो मुझे मज़ा आता है यार जब तुम लोग साथ मिलके काम कर रहे होते हो ना, एक दूसरे की हेल्प कर रहे होते हो. Nothing like it. I love such an interactive cohort. Okay, so none of the following statements can be inferred from the passage except. What do we mean by it? So none of the following statements can be inferred means none of these is true except. So it means that three of these are not true, one of these is true. So we are looking for a statement that is true. So let's start with A. Archaeology and anthropology leave too much to imaginative interpretations. This is the viewpoint of some other people, not the author of this particular passage. So therefore, not true. Should I take you back to the relevant part? Here it is. Both disciplines have been subject to academic sniffiness. The difficulty in acquiring empirical evidence is the cause, say, critics of too much imaginative interpretation. But this book argues that there is creative myth making. It has been most often carried out by outsiders. So there are people who do not understand these streams well. They are the ones who engage in it. These streams in themselves are not streams that leave too much for imaginative interpretation. It's the mistake of the people, not of the stream or the subject. Okay, let's look at B. Graeber and Wengro have accepted the notion of historical determinism in characterizing prehistorical society. False. Let me once again take you back to the right part. Okay, here it is. So there are these other individuals who associate civilizational progress with something, and both camps, say the authors, endorse the idea of historical determinism. But they reject this teleological approach. This approach which looks at their end point. So this is definitely false. See, many scholars have characterized prehistoric societies based on the forms of thinking of Neo-Hobbesian or Neo-Rusonians. How would you even pronounce it? True. The same paragraph. There have been people who've used those camps, both the camps. D, the book The Dawn of Everything is not wholly a historical rewrite. Not wholly a historical rewrite. It is a historical rewrite. So to say it is not a historical rewrite will not be correct. I can take you to two places. Here. Right? So that's one. What we think we know about human history is wrong. So the two came at the established history. And then I think we'd find this towards the end as well. So the book seeks to do more than rewrite the past. So it definitely rewrites the past, plus it does something more. So it does rewrite. So if I change, now see, even a single word can make a difference. If I change this wholly to just, then D is true. Hang on. Then D is true. But if I say it is not wholly a historical rewrite, then it will be incorrect. Then it is not true. So we know that A, B and D are not true. C is true, and that is why our answer here should be option C. So you notice these subtle things. It is wholly a historical rewrite. It says that whatever has been said in this domain is wrong. So with that, let me take you over to your next question. Question number 2 on your screen. All the following arguments are made in the passage except. So tell me what you think. हाय पवन, क्वेश्चंस कर पाएगा साथ में? ओके रनित, so absolutely correct, D it is. So it says that there have been some people who were influenced by the forms of thinking of neo-Hobbesians, neo-Rousseauians. So whether archaeologists and anthropologists were influenced by these or not cannot be determined with 100% certainty. In fact, if I take you back to the right part, I'll just highlight one word. It has been most often carried out by outsiders. It means that there could have been some insiders too who have fallen prey to that kind of thinking. So when I look at D, it is something that cannot be determined. On the other hand, if I talk about B, Vedant, except, so when I look at B, look at the last paragraph itself. So if you read it, perhaps our prehistory is the key to our liberation in the future. If a genuine sense of freedom is how we organize ourselves was fundamental to our prehistory, then perhaps that kind of prehistory is key to the liberation in the future. So this is something that has been supported by the last paragraph. So therefore D it is. Here is the next question for you. Okay, so I do have three answers, Ranit, Vedant and Anjula, and that happens to be the right answer, yes. So when you say both versions were the work of scholars outside relevant domains, the outdated version was the work of scholars outside the domain. The new version, no, these people were people who belonged to that domain of what, archaeology, anthropology. Both versions stress on hierarchical communities. You can refer to the first paragraph that tells you that the outdated version used hierarchical communities. The new version says there were all kind of communities, right? So you had egalitarian societies, you had monarchies and all that. So there was no stress on hierarchical communities in the new society. In both versions, agriculture had some role in people's lives. Absolutely, yes, that's true. Both versions did not use much empirical findings. The outdated version did not use empirical findings, but the new version did. When you read second and third paragraph together, this becomes evident, and therefore C should be the answer here. And here is your fourth and the last question of the passage, and then we'll move over to the next one. Okay, so we want something that complements, basically means supports or strengthens. Let's see. A is irrelevant. It is irrelevant because the conclusion that the authors have arrived at were about prehistoric societies, whereas A goes ahead and talks about medieval societies. So that will have no bearing, no impact on their conclusion. So let's rule it out. B, archaeological excavations did not uncover large prehistoric cities. This is going to weaken. Why? Because it contradicts what these authors have said. They have said that in the past you had all types of social communities. Let me take you back to the passage. So see, these myriad social arrangements, some involving large cities, monarchical, some egalitarian, some with slave labor, and they're talking about prehistory, not medieval times, right? So if you say that excavation did not uncover any large city, then this part gets negated. And if this part gets negated, the author's stance will be weakened, and therefore I can be 100% sure that B is not going to be our answer, because we are looking for something that strengthens. Okay, C, anthropological findings detect large number of slaves in prehistoric societies. That supports it, so that strengthens. Prehistoric man was mainly neo-Hobbesians. If this is true, then this once again weakens, because the authors of these two books have taken up a fight against a camp that says that men were neo-Hobbesians, people who were influenced by that thought process. So even D gets ruled out. And you can get this from, where is that paragraph where we had neo-Hobbesians? I think here, right? So when you read this paragraph in conjunction with the next one, which says that they reject this approach, you can very easily say that option D also weakens, and that is why our answer here should be C. So A was a trap. I hope that B and D were ones that we could perhaps rule out with relative ease. If we could not, we need to work harder. Okay, so that's your passage 1, and with that, let's switch over to the next passage. And I am picking up another subject matter which we have been getting quite often in the CAT of late, and that is biology. So shall we dive into it? Ready to switch over from anthro to bio? Here is the first paragraph. Okay, so that basically ends the passage and we can now move over to our questions. So here you go. So this is in a way something that tests your ability to figure out the overview of the passage, or in some cases we can also call these structure based questions, which is one and the same thing, where you need to figure out where exactly does every paragraph plays a role, or the core role played by every paragraph. Okay. Fantastic. I think all of you have managed to get this right. The correct answer is indeed D. So tea leaves, arthropody, DNA, identification, ease of sampling, pests and their management, every key idea has been captured here really very well. C does not even talk about arthropods. It somehow talks about something called anthropod. I don't even know what that is. Although I would prefer B says teas and herbs. If I have herbs in D, that will be even better. But then in all the other areas, D is better. So D it is absolutely correct. So here is your next question. Which of the following cannot be inferred from the passage? With an emphasis on the word cannot. So do what you do. Okay. So A is true. B, green tea is grown in East Asia. Let me take you back to a part. For example, mint tea contained DNA from insects found in the peppermint growing Pacific Northwest regions, whereas green tea contained DNA from insects native to East Asia. What does that tell you? Green tea is grown in East Asia. So from this, we can infer that B is true. C, absence of arthropod DNA could imply that the tea leaves may have been heavily sprayed with pesticides. True. Let me take you to the relevant part. Even a minute presence of arthropod DNA is a good sign that the tea is not dripping with pesticides. So if there are arthropods, it's a good chance that it was not heavily sprayed with pesticides, right? So absence of could imply that tea may have been heavily sprayed. Absolutely. So that's true. D, a minute presence of arthropod DNA indicates that most arthropod DNA was probably not killed by pesticides. So there is a minute presence. So on the basis of this, can we figure out that most arthropod DNA was probably not killed by pesticides? See, the relevant line says that it tells you it was not dripping with pesticides. It means that there was no excessive use of pesticides, but there could have been a use of pesticides, and that use of pesticide could have damaged a large chunk of arthropod DNA. It's just that it was not used very heavily and therefore some amount of it survived. So D is something that cannot be determined. The data provided are not sufficient for it. And therefore, if I were to label it, my label will be can't say. All I can say is that if arthropod DNA is present in minute amounts, it tells us that pesticides were not used excessively. But whether there was a large part of it that was destroyed by pesticides or not destroyed by pesticides is something that we cannot determine from the given information, and therefore the answer is. So we were looking for what cannot be inferred, which basically means that 3 of these will be true, 1 will be not true, and the one that is not true is supposed to be marked as the answer. Here is the next question. Let's hope that I'm not cutting into the options for you. Let me just stay back. See, the problem with D is by producing different varieties of teas, the companies are not producing different, it's not the production of different varieties of trees. It is, just to take you back to the passage, in fact it is even here. What do these companies do? I think it is in the second last paragraph. Harvesting, drying and transporting plant material. It is not about production of the tea. So it is this part which is a problem. Once again, C talks about small tea bags, which is irrelevant. Moreover, they have not helped researchers in arriving at their research, at their results. They are helping them with sampling. And in case you do not know what sampling is, let's talk about it. How do I okay, in statistics we often use something called sampling, right? So whenever you are dealing with a large population of any type, you use a technique called sampling. This technique involves taking small number of participants from a much bigger group. This is often done when data needs to be collected about that large population, and you need some kind of statistical analysis or survey or economic study, etc. So there are a lot of different ways of doing it. I mean, eventually when you join a B school, you'll study all about random sampling, judgment sampling, block sampling, systematic sampling, market sampling, audit sampling, cluster sampling, probability, non-probability sampling, sampling error, all of these things. Okay, but the key is it can be difficult to study a large population where you go to every individual, or in this case every plant species. It's impossible. So what you can do is that you can focus on a small portion to represent the entire group. Now researchers face this challenge where they have a small team, so they cannot gather a lot of sample. But because these companies are gathering a lot of plant material for their own commercial economic purposes anyway, then they are in a way indirectly helping them in gathering that sample. And that idea is captured best by answer choice A. So by making different varieties of teas easily available in large quantities, companies have solved the researchers' problem of, so their problem was they couldn't gather enough sample. And that problem is the one that is getting solved. A can be made better by introducing the word unwittingly or a synonym of it. But otherwise, if I compare all the four, A comes closest to that idea. The others happen to have some distortions or irrelevant insertions. Okay, here comes the last one. All of the following are true as per the passage except. So another inference or specific detail question. Let us see how you deal with it. I think you'll have to use the seeker and refer to the right parts very carefully. So there are some species which are a pest. But then remember, there were these 1200 arthropod species that were found in fact, look at 4. The current research found the DNA of more than 1200 arthropod species in just 4 plant species. Absolutely yes. The first paragraph, this is true. So if there are 1200 insects whose traces are found, if those insects, if all of them were harmful, the plants would not even have survived. So we can infer this. We can conclude A on the basis of the information provided in the passage. But look at C. The current research discovered the DNA of more than 200 arthropod species per sample. Let me take you back to a part that will settle it for us. Just highlighting one part for you. What do you understand by this? The team discovered on average more than 200 different types of arthropods from each T sample. So on average more than 200 means, does that mean that there were more than 200 arthropod species per sample? No, there could have been species that had fewer than 200. There could have been samples where they were less than 200. There could have been samples with more than 200 where eventually the average turns out to be 200 plus. But can we infer that there were definitely more than 200 arthropod species per sample? No, we cannot. So this is can't say, and therefore our answer should be C. B can be concluded. B is true on the basis of I think, what was it, the first paragraph? Was it the first one? Let me see. No, not the first one, but the second one. So if this is plant, what remains? Then this is arthropod. So B is true. We were looking for something which is not true, and that is why our answer is C. So that takes care of the RCs, and here is something for you to think over. So I hope you are investing your blood, sweat, and hopefully not tears, but even tears if need be, to become the kind of person you aspire to be, which in this case is a topper in the CAT exam. So do that, and another way of doing that is through enrolling in the test series so that you get more practice, and of course you can always sample it by participating in the All India Open Mock, which the window has opened today. Please make sure that you start writing it, or you go ahead and write it at the earliest. And you can also, in case you're facing a lot of problems, you can consider joining our CAT 23 program. You can sample it by going through a 3-day free trial. To make it easy, we are also organizing a scholarship test a day after tomorrow that can help you get a sweet deal for yourself. and that program has anyway proven track record. Okay, it has produced amazing results. So that's it from me today. I look forward to meeting you guys once again in the next session, but until then, stay safe, stay focused, stay in touch, and don't forget to like the video before you leave. Have a great day ahead. See you soon.